She talks. She listens. She cares. She's Joyce Oglesby. In today's ever-changing world, Joyce takes on the hottest issues. She fights for what's right in America.
I wanna leave a legacy. How will they remember me?
Just Ask Joyce is brought to you by Guaranteed Total Construction, Window World, Nan's and Crafts Florists, Squire Boone Caverns, and About Face Spa and Salon. Now, just ask Joyce.
And leave that kind of legacy.
And welcome to Just Ask Joyce. I'm Joyce Oglesby, your Family Life Fix-It Pro, getting you fit for life every day God's way. We're going to talk a lot about grace today on the show, and you're going to see what form of grace I'm talking about. Actually, we'll talk about a lot of it, but first, I want to tell you that the flowers gracing the table today are, of course, compliments of Nan's and Craft. They are beautiful, introducing us in a big way to summer with the sunflowers and the tulips, and they are just gorgeous, almost as gorgeous as my lovely guests today that I'm going to introduce you to in just a moment. But what you want to stick around for in the show as well is my Q&A time, when we're going to spend it about a controlling husband today with Imprisoned in Shepherdsville. But I don't want to spend any more time about that, because we'll get to that later, because I want to introduce you to someone I'm so excited about being on the show today, because we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics of all, my book, Grandma's Jewels and the Legacy Behind Them. And my special guest that I invited today, they actually had a book club where they read Grandma's Jewels. They invited me into Carla Harris's home to do an author review, and I love doing it. So then I said, would you girls just come and do a show with me about Grandma's Jewels so that the people can know just the beauty behind the family dynamic, multifaceted mystery? And listen, I had to twist their arm a little bit, but they're here. And here we go. I'm going to introduce you to Carla Harris and Teresa McCombs, and then Rhonda Smith. Now, I asked them to come because what I want them to do is to just explain to you what value they saw in Grandma's Jewels. Thanks for coming, ladies.
You're welcome.
I love it that you did. All right, Carla, we're going to start with you, because you were kind of the ramrod behind this. You said, hey, girls, do y'all want to do a Bible study? And you got several volunteers, even one from out of state.
Yes, I sure did. I got a list here. I'm going to have a shout out to Brenda Zinner, Carolyn Brewer, Kathy Toby, Jane Reeves, Rhonda Smith, Teresa McCombs, Debbie Sweatman, Jean Morgan, Vicki Burke in Oklahoma, Sue Miller, and Diane Kortsky. So we all gathered every Monday night for 5 weeks. Carolyn Brewer came to see you.
Right.
And you told me she needs to read Grandma's Jewels, and I said, I need to read Grandma's Jewels too. And you said, you all need to get together and read it. And I said, maybe we could do a book club. So you kind of sparked it.
And you did.
And so I asked our bunco group and then the ladies in our Sunday school class, and these are friends from back in high school and some ladies I work with, and y'all just came together.
And here you are. All right, so once you started unfolding the pages, and I know that the it's like almost a 700-page novel,
Yes.
and that scares people sometimes, but once you get into it, it's kind of hard to put down. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so let's just start with you, Carla. What was your favorite character in the book? Who? I guess I should say who.
I had several, but my favorite that I could draw something from that it kind of gives me, reminds me, is Ralph, because of his lifestyle and living with Gladys. And Gladys was kind of bitter, and then Gladys's brother, James, they were both kind of bitter together because of Carmen and what they did to Carmen. I mean,
Don't give anything away.
But Grandma taught all of them Grace. Grandma Grace.
There we go. There's the Grace we're
taught
talking.
them everyone about Christ. And I just love it that Ralph finally came to the realization that he could put his alcohol aside and put his wife and family with Christ inside of him and just grow and know that everything's going to be okay.
It's pretty cool.
But I think it kind of trickled down, I guess, Grandma to Carmen, and then Carmen forgiving James and Gladys. And because she was able to move on and live like Christ would have her, Carmen, and James and Gladys, I feel like they were able to see Christ through Carmen forgiving them, and then they could accept Christ or realize that he's there for them. And then I think Ralph in turn wanted his wife to blossom, and so he fell right along with them. So that's just 3 of the characters.
Well,
And
there are
so
a
many.
lot of characters. I mean, it's kind of a Gone with the Wind, a Legends of the Fall, with a real God twist in it. But there's so many value lessons. I call them life lessons in the book, or when I'm talking about it, But there are so many life lessons that we can pull from it. Now, all right, Teresa, who was your favorite character?
Well, I dearly love Grandma Grace, and I could really relate to her because I had very godly grandparents that I grew up with, and I just, how she just left a legacy and to everybody in her life, and I just hope that I can somehow be like Grandma Grace, which grace is God's riches at Christ's expense.
Amen.
And I highly recommend this book, and it's a quick read because you get so caught up in it and you just love all the characters, and it's about life and everything imaginable that we deal with.
It, and I think one of the beauties of Grandma's Jewels is that it is life. It's life and family, and life happens to every family. There's so many dynamics wrapped up in this book, and Grace approaches it with an anchor mentality. She is I think every family needs an anchor, and she is that anchor in the family. But I think sometimes we don't know how much of an impact we leave on people in our families. Just stay in the course until maybe we're, at our demise. And when the book opens, of course, Grandma Grace is. She's in the funeral home. All right, so, all right, and I'll ask Rhonda now. Who was your favorite character?
Mine also was Grandma Grace, obviously for the reasons, because I kind of looked at the book, and for me, I saw grace and forgiveness and faith that she had, and how the power of prayer, how it affected her life, and how she depended on that, and she just spoke to me in how that her legacy, because she built it in Jesus, how it just kind of like Carla said, trickled down to her, not only her children, and it might have taken them a little time to come around, but her grandchildren, and what an effect that had on her grandchildren. And so I just don't, I just know that if I ever have the opportunity to have grandchildren, that I hope that I can have an impact on them as much as she had on her grandchildren.
I say all the time when I talk about Grandma Grace, she's a little bit of me and everything I want to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is Grandma Grace, and I just love the fact that she's not only well respected in her home and in her family, but very well in the community. Very respected. She was the matriarch of the Savannah, Georgia area. Did you like the fact that
I
it
love
said
Savannah.
Yes.
Yes.
I think I felt like I did a pretty good depiction of Savannah. Of course, my husband's from that area, and so I'm very familiar with that. All right, so real quickly, just a pearl of wisdom that Grandma gave to you.
Well, I have my little highlight in here, but I like it when she was speaking with Maddie, her granddaughter, and just telling her that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, but we still have to learn and live in this world and not be of this world.
Wow, I like that was when she says, "Grandma, am I going to hell?" And
Yes.
she says, "Only if you want to."
Yes.
All right, what about you, real quickly, Teresa?
I think it's how she just always was on her knees when, everything's up to God and He's in control, and she knew that.
That's cool. Did you have a particular wisdom?
I liked it when she had lunch with Valerie, and she was talking about her son James, and there's just one sentence that stood out for me. It said, "Find out what is inside that heart of his," and she's talking about James, and she said, "Therein lies your treasure. It is pure gold, and you're not going to care that it won't spend." And she was kind of talking about worldly riches, and that just spoke volumes to me, is where your treasure is, you know.
Wow. Okay, guys, that's just a snippet of Grandma's Jewels. You can pick it up from Amazon or go to my website, justaskjoyce.com, and I'll send you an autographed copy. But you need Grandma's Jewels in your library. We're going to go to a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment for more of Just Ask Joyce.
You're watching Just Ask Joyce, where real life and family values connect. Just Ask Joyce is brought to you by Guaranteed Total Construction, Window World, Nan's and Crafts Florists, Squire Boone Caverns, and About Face Spa and Salon.
And welcome back to Just Ask Joyce, again, a Family Life Fix-It Pro, helping you get through family squabbles. And you know, like Grandma's Jewels, lots of families have them. But this one is particularly troubling to me today. This is from the Window World mailbag, and this is from Imprisoned in Shepherdsville. Listen to this. "My husband is extremely controlling. I have to get his permission for everything when he comes home from work. I have to account for my day. I brought a car into the marriage that was mine and paid for. He told me he was trading it up. Instead, he sold it and never got me another one and kept all the money. I feel like a prisoner, and I'm afraid to stand up to him. My parents live 5 hours away. I'm lonely and feeling smothered. Help." Well, let me tell you, honey, you are more than smothered. You are in prison. I'll just say that. And it concerns me that you are afraid to stand up to him. That is a little troubling to me. So after I get through my fix, I'm going to give you some help numbers that I want you to write down and keep on your person in case you ever need that. You haven't said anything about physical abuse, but there's a reason for fear, all right? So I want you to stick by this plan here. I'm going to give you something to help you. Number one, walk, all right? Unless you're 30 miles in the back of nowhere, you can walk somewhere while he's at work and get out of this prison, unless he's keeping you chained to a bed or shackled to some piece of furniture. Get up and walk out, honey bunny. Now, you have to understand, I am not an advocate for divorce at all right? I believe that we can work through things when someone is willing. You have to have two parties willing. I'm not so sure he's going to be. But you walk to a church, you walk to a women's shelter, you walk somewhere to civilization and ask for help. Number two, I want you to call. I want you to, it doesn't sound like you have friends because he's kind of isolated you, quite frankly. And parents are a good drive for you. You know, I'm 6+ hours away from my daughter, but let me tell you something. If she picked up the phone and called me, I'd be there in a hairy heartbeat. And your parents would too. I pray that you have those kinds of parents. But if you don't, again, I'm going to give you some numbers that will help you. Maybe I'll come after you myself, all right? Number three, ultimatum. Ultimatum. People don't like it when I tell them, you know, give him an ultimatum. Either you're going to seek help with this or, you know, or I'm going to leave. Now, again, if you're afraid to do that, there is a reason for the fear. But, you know, give him an ultimatum. Until you draw some boundary lines, he's going to keep controlling you. You understand that, I'm sure. All right, and then seek counseling. Would you do that? I know he might not, but you need to. If he doesn't, prayerfully, both of you will come together and try to work this thing out. But I think this is a serious situation. This is a man who does not understand. He needs the full spoonful of Ephesians 5. He's only taken just a little dose. The wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. Well, there's more to that. Ephesians 5, starting at 21. First, before that, it says, you know, everyone submit themselves to one another, and then wives submit to yourselves to your husbands. But then it goes on. Apostle Paul says, husbands, love your wife as Christ loves the church. You're not to bring any harm to her. You're supposed to present her without blemish to the Lord. You are accountable for your wife, and this man does not understand that. I don't know whether it was modeled for him or exactly what, but let me tell you something. He's on the wrong path with you, and you are a prisoner. And my heart is bleeding out for you today. So let me just give you this quote for the day, and then I'm going to put up, or Jason, I guess, put up that help number. You get your pen out right now, sweetheart, and put up these help numbers. Look, Louisville, there's the help number for them, Indiana, or there's a toll-free number where you can get help from anybody. When I was growing up, my mother had no alternative, I can tell you. She didn't have anybody to call, but that is not the case today. There's an awareness out there in the public, and we can help you now. I want to give you this quote for the day, and this is how marriage is supposed to be structured. This is how it works best. Marriage works best in a pluralist state of coexistence. That's how God intended it. That's why He made man and woman to become one. Don't go away. We'll be back with more. And welcome back to Just Ask Joyce. Again, those helpline numbers up for your convenience. If you're not, imprisoned in Shepherdsville, but somewhere else, write those down. Keep them on your person, but don't live in prison. Call 911. Carla, that's what you were saying. Listen, I have some pretty crazy emails sometimes, but people live in really precarious situations. There are family dynamics in everything, are there not?
Yes.
I mean, every family has those skeletons or those little dynamics, and it can be the best of families, but sometimes things go awry. Grandma Grace was a great example of how we should live, but yet she had a lot of family trauma, I think, and without giving all of it away because we want people to read the books, it's a plethora of family trauma.
Right.
Would you say?
Yes.
Yes.
And, but she showed you with grace, grace shows everyone how you can work through it without being the preachy grandma, but instilling values in her kids and her grandkids. And didn't it remind you of Proverbs at the end where it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he grows old, he'll come back. I just love that. He'll return to it. And I think that Grandma's Jewels epitomizes that. Again, being that anchor, and every family needs an anchor. Now, I have to ask you girls, I know that she gives us a lot of tips about how we can do that. How did you like her wall of remembrance? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where they wrote the scripture and the growth chart, the measure of growth. That was pretty. That was pretty cool. But she also, I know that you, Carla, went online and discovered where can I get this cucumber lemonade recipe, because I talk about the cucumber lemonade.
Yes.
If you've never had it, and I apologize because I should have made a glass for all of y'all today. It's wonderful, cucumber lemonade, and you dug through my website and found it,
Right.
and shared it with your friends. But also another recipe.
The barbecue sauce that Webby, you all actually shared with my family.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Yes.
Yes, we came over
So
and
good
broke
with
bread
peanut
together.
butter and
It's good, isn't it?
Yes.
It's really, really different. Grandma's Jewels and the legacy behind them, you can pick it up at Amazon, or again, go to my website, justaskjoyce.com. Order it right there, and I'll send you an autographed copy. And now, I have told many people that if you read Grandma's Jewels, I want you to call me and let me come and have a cup of coffee with you, because I could talk about Grandma's Jewels. Actually, I love the invitation to come and talk to it. And it's more than a book read. It's really a book study, isn't it?
It is.
yes, so many things happen that we talked about. We don't know what year this was actually, taking place, but we talked about in our book club that things like the drugs that were out of control then, well, they're out of control today. And just things, that our grandkids are seeing now, and it's all in here. And God can prevail.
And we're hoping we see a movie one day.
Well, we will see what God has to do with that. I don't know. Actually, there has been a screenplay written because a screenwriter picked up the book, read it, and said, there's got to be a movie about this. But, you know, it's all in God's hands, God's timing, and I'm just going to kind of let him lead the way because he does a much better job than I do. But pick up your copy of Grandma's Jewels today. I spotlighted this because I know there are families out there hurting, and Grandma's Jewels can anchor you to some truth, some absolute truth. Make sure you get yours. We'll be back. Don't go away. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have to take a moment and say that I really actually came to know in an unusual way a Grandma Grace. I didn't even know I was writing about Betty Hoffman, but Craig Hoffman, who is a station manager here, his mother, Betty Hoffman, passed away, and I got the distinct privilege of going to her funeral service. And I sat there, and I have never been so enamored with a person's legacy as I was Betty Hoffman. Incredible woman. And I sat there and I surmised that, you know what, she's kind of an Albert Hepburn because she was absolutely beautiful at 84 when she died. She looked so youthful. And a Mother Teresa because she had the heart of Mother Teresa. And I thought, after I left, I'm like, she's Grandma Grace. She is the epitome of Grandma Grace. She did so much in this world and she impacted people all over the world. I mean, they had letters there from people from Australia and Fiji and Pakistan and you name it. They had them pouring in that had never met her, but yet she impacted their lives because she impacted someone else's life. You can be that kind of person too. Grandma Grace will help you get there. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, it only takes a little bit of effort to bring a lot of love into this world, and you know what? Don't we need it, girls? Thank you all so much for being here today. God bless you. Pick up Grandma's Jewels today and the legacy behind them and leave your legacy. And in the meantime, I'm in battle for his cause.